Renault, you stand before the FIA's World Motorsport Council. You are charged with breaching Article 151C of the Sporting Code, in that at the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix you conspired with your driver Nelson Piquet Jr. and instructed him deliberately to crash in order to cause the safety car to be deployed to the advantage of your other driver. Pat Simmons, how do you plead?
Not guilty, sir. We didn't do it.
What evidence do you bring forward in your defence?
Well, it's obvious, isn't it? Nelsino was our driver, and we've been trying to get him to do what we want him to do all blooming season, and he couldn't manage it. So why should he suddenly be able to do it at that race?
Case dismissed.
Gareth Jones on speed!
Hello and welcome to Gareth Jones on Speed. Hope you had a good summer holidays. We did, and one of the team is still on his summer holiday. I'm the one called Gareth, he's the one called Zog, and standing next to us, will you welcome to Gareth Jones on Speed with a small applause, Jonny Smith. Jonny!
Welcome. Thank you.
We've watched you on that telly, we've read you in your reviews online and in papers, and it's fantastic to have you on this show. Richard's still on his holiday, you see, so...
I'm the reserve.
You've got number 13 on your back.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
On your back, it's got the name of about 23 different drag racing suppliers.
Yeah.
You're not keen on cars by any chance?
No, well, I got given this T-shirt. It's one of those drag racing T-shirts with about 800 colours on.
Nice, it's got a vet on the front.
Yeah, always airbrushed. And they're not actually very attractive T-shirts, but I got given it by a friend of mine who has the world's fastest street legal car. And so I cherish this T-shirt.
That's a good shirt.
That's his car there.
That is a Vauxhall VX 490, isn't it? With a V8 and probably nitro injection or
Twin
something?
turbo, yeah.
When you say fastest street legal car, just how fast are we talking?
0 to 189 in 7.6 seconds.
Well done for knowing the answer and for achieving that velocity. Both of those I'm applauding.
He's a big shout out to him, Andy, if you're listening.
Cool.
Respect.
So you like your motorsport, but do you like drag racing, or is it just a personal relationship?
No, I do. I really like drag racing. There's a lot more to it than what people think.
Yeah.
It's not just sitting there waiting for the lights to go green and then just squeezing the throttle and, with the radio on. It's actually, there's so many different tactics for drag racing. It's unbelievable.
I mean, is a lot of it to do with tyres and sort of getting them up to the temperature? Because in my limited knowledge of drag racing, I know the stuff to do with, getting your tyres sticky enough and sort of the way that they spin up, and as they get faster, they get more rigid.
You got that. You got tyre compound. Tyre pressure's really important. Suspension setup, because it's all very well having the power, but it's delivering the power to the ground. Because a slight amount of wheel spin is like a second. Mm-hmm. Or a second and a half. A second and a half in drag racing is just loads. Well, in all motorsport it's loads, but that's the difference between being in the 8s or being in the 9s or being in the 10s, and the difference between a 7-second quarter mile and a 9-second quarter mile is massive.
I went to Santa Pod once. I made a film there for Speed Sunday about drag racing and thoroughly enjoyed it. The smell of it stays with you for the week, and it stays on your clothes.
It does,
You can't get away from it.
Yeah.
But then I had a conversation with a mate of mine who'd been to Santa Pod, and he said that he'd enjoyed drag racing because he turned up and thought, this is going to be good, and he stood there, and then somebody went, ah! Which frightened the life out of him. He wasn't expecting it. And that's pretty much what it is, isn't it? It's like shock to the system. It's great.
It's because it's just a straight road. So when you first pull up and you think, well, it can't be that good. It's not like circuit racing. They don't clip the apex sort of thing. They might clip the arm curve if they're unlucky. But it's like a big launch. It's all about the launch. Yeah. And then you just look down there. There's a digital readout that tells you the terminal speed, the reaction time at the lights.
It's like the difference between a traditional shootout in an old-style John Ford Western and a shootout in a Sergio Leone Western, where it's all about the build-up and you've got all the suspense.
It is,
and then you've got just a couple of seconds of intense action. It's just bang, there
it's true. Yeah, everyone has to do it.
Do you like the top fuel guys? Do you like the funny cars?
Yeah.
Do you like the bikes? All of it?
Yeah, I can go to Santa Pod and sit on the bank, the grassy knoll.
Yeah.
Lay out a little
rifle.
Lay out a little hamper and sit there and just watch any type of drag racing for a whole day. And I actually don't want to talk to anyone. I just got this sort of autistic
Come on, feel
connection.
the noise.
Yeah. I mean, Top Fuel's just nuts because they pull up to the line and it's already deafening and they're just idling. And then the idle goes, let me get this right, I think the idle goes a bit lower as they're staging up, and someone said to me it's because they're switching on the second fuel pump, and you know, because there's a halo of just horrible haze around the car, and if you're nearby you cry because of
Gets in the eye.
nitromethane and nitromethane's just unbelievable, and then the reaction off the line is just so vicious.
But don't they actually use quite primitive transmissions to get that? Isn't that they use like a really old style
2-speed
sort of
power glide?
Yeah,
an American 2-speed auto, which is like the most simple prehistoric gearbox.
I wasn't expecting to talk about drag racing at the top of the show, but I'm glad we did. Jonny, it's great to have you with us. For me, drag racing is deciding which kilt to put on before the show. That's my idea of a drag race. But I want to talk about some of the other racing that's been going on. Hang on. Sort me notes. There's been so much going on. It's upside down. All right, where do we start? Fisi to Ferrari. Zog, 20 seconds. Happy?
I'm very happy. I mean, and I have to say, of course, that is the phrase we associate with Giancarlo Fisichella.
Yeah.
If you've seen that photograph of Fisichella in the Ferrari for the first time, have you ever seen a picture that sort of says, I'm very happy, more than
I'm very happy. Wait, I don't know if you know this, but when Fisi first appeared in F1, his command of the English language was appalling.
Was it?
Basically,
limited.
all he would say at the end of every race is, car good, team good, I'm very happy. And that's all he could say. And
now he really is
really
very happy.
Happier than ever.
I'm really happy.
really happy. And I'm happy for him.
You've been a Fisichella fan for years.
Yeah.
One of the things that's great about this is the way that it's contributing to the variety of wonderful things that is happening in this F1 season.
It's just, I mean,
we've got some, the little sort of, the button fairy story at the start of the season, and and right now, sort of, more or less out of nowhere, very unfortunate for Felipe Massa that he had to have an accident for it to happen. But almost
out of nowhere,
he had to. Well, somebody else maybe had to, but that's another story.
Is that like boxing where they say you go down in the 8th?
That's right.
And Fisichella at the end of his career, because he was probably going to be out of a drive next year, right? And at the end of his career, he gets his dream of a drive for Ferrari.
Yeah.
I mean, how good is that?
He said for years that he always wanted to drive a Ferrari, but they would never have him. They've ignored his calls, and so suddenly where it's come from, I think it's the change of management. It's Stefano Domenicali, who's perhaps always been a closet Fisi fan.
Well, but there is also simply the fact that they needed to get a fast driver into the car. Clearly,
quickly.
Luca Badoa was not that man. And then, well, that's an interesting question. Surely they have to do something about the testing rules at the moment, because I don't believe that Ferrari had any idea that Luca Badoa was going to be that slow. And if they didn't know he was going to be that slow, given that he's been their test driver for so long, they obviously can't do enough testing. They've got to
I've got to say at this point, podcasters, that I'm being really quiet, and it's because I don't know a lot about Formula One.
But that's cool.
Yeah,
that's right.
I feel a bit left out.
That's okay.
I used to watch Formula One when Nigel Mansell did it, and Damon Hill, and that Katayama bloke that we were talking about earlier.
Ukyo Katayama, who is not the new Prime Minister of Japan, who is Yukio Hatayama. Have you heard this? The new Prime Minister of Japan is called Yukio Hatayama. And every time it was on the news, what? Yukio Katayama is the President?
A substandard Formula One driver is the man ruling Japan.
I'm very pleased.
Right.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy.
I think F1,
that was your bag.
Well, my little soundbite is F1 is becoming interesting again to me.
Good.
Because we've got some Brits.
Yeah.
Button's back, which is great for him, because I think he's probably felt like he's had a kick in the swingers for the last few years.
And you're a Somerset lad, though, aren't you?
I am.
You were born there. Not Frome, though. You from Frome?
Not Frome, no. No, that's... Frome's like... To be honest, even though Kevin McLeod from Grand Designs is there, it is the crap end of Somerset. It is, because it's nowhere near the sea or anything. You want the sea and stuff, don't you?
But they've got some good cider there, haven't they? They've got some good Frome Valley.
That's true. And they've got the Somerset Levels, which is kind of like the Fens.
Right.
It's a bit scary.
So
it's just a bit weird. Yeah.
So, one of the things that's making F1 interesting at the moment, not the cider from Somerset, but this whole business with Piquet, as we made the gag before the show, Renault being called to the World Motorsport Council. So,
you jest so lightly about going down in the 8th round, but did somebody ask Nelson Piquet to do that last year?
What do you think?
Well, I do think that if you were going to suspect anybody in the world of F1 of fixing a match like that, Flav's your man, I've got to say.
Flavio Briatore. He's always been dodgy.
Well,
allegedly.
Allegedly. And there was a lot of talk right from the moment it happened about how extraordinarily fortuitous it was for Renault and for Alonso that Piquet crashed when he did, which pretty much fixed the result of the race in Alonso's favour. That does, sure, it looks suspicious, but the thing that really makes me wonder how much there is in that, though, is it wasn't a minor shunt that Piquet had on that occasion.
No, it was a big slam, yeah.
I'm just not sure that anybody would say, yes, I am going to stuff my car into that concrete wall quite that fast,
I know we joked about it before the start of the show, but I don't think it was intentional. I think that's too big a risk to ask your driver to intentionally crash. I just think that's...
Plus, you can probably count on Nelson doing it on his own account anyway. Why bother to ask him to do it?
But what an interesting season, and it all started with poor old Massa, who had a terrible, terrible turn of events with his fellow countryman Barrichello's spring coming off and trashing his helmet. So we wish Massa well.
What's he broken?
His entire head, basically. Yeah, he broke his head. He broke round his eye. Well, he's actually, today, the day we recorded this show, he was having a little more plastic surgery to finish the whole thing up.
Dr. De Silva to operating room 3. Dr. De Silva, operating room 3.
Hola, Senior Massa. How are you feeling today?
Well, much better, thank you very much. I must say I'm looking forward to returning to racing as soon as possible.
Well, that won't be this season. I'm afraid we still have a little plastic surgery to do. What I will do is today to repair the very small hole that remains in your skull. A very minor procedure.
Oh, obrigado, doctor. But can I ask you a question?
But of course, far away.
Well, you see, this Felipe Massa cute face, the way I look means that other drivers do not fear me. Some journalists, particularly Richard Porter from Sniffer Petrol, think that I'm far too cute to win the F1 World Championship.
Well, Felipe, the minor scar on the left of your face from the accident will make you look a little less cute and slightly more, shall we say, rugged.
Excellent. And can you do anything to make me as tall as Kimi Räikkönen?
Well, we can try, but I cannot make any guarantees. Excuse me, one moment. Hola.
Hola, doctor. Sorry to interrupt, but I have a senior PK Jr. on the phone waiting to know if you can perform a talent transplant.
I'm afraid not, Maria. Tell him I'm a doctor, not a bloody miracle worker.
Gareth Jones and Speed! Cynical us? Nah!
You're listening to Gareth Jones on Speed with Zog,
Hello.
Gareth Jones, and Jonny Smith.
Hello.
Do you realise if we had our own show, it would be called Alias Smith and Jones, perhaps?
Yeah.
That would work, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Alien Smith and Jones and Zog.
Yeah,
that works. Yeah.
I never made it into that low budget.
Alias Smith and Jones.
What do I reach for? Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. That was what it was based on. The old TV series.
Alas Smith and Jones, you're thinking of. Oh,
No,
I'm
no,
thinking
no,
of.
no.
Ah,
Hang on,
Alias.
what's going on?
I was thinking of Alas Smith and Jones.
and I
You're
was
thinking because I said Alias Smith and Jones.
Exactly. I was thinking Alias Smith and Jones.
Aliens, Smith and Jones.
1970s TV series, sort of inspired by Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, about Kid Curry and Hannibal Hayes, two lovable outlaws on the run.
Yeah, Pete Duell was one of them. We may have gone off topic here.
Yeah, back to cars.
Lovable outlaws on the run. I would sometimes think of myself as a lovable outlaw on the run.
You
When I'm driving a certain car.
which car?
Well, like if I'm driving my Dodge,
What Dodge? Which Dodge?
I got a Charger.
What year?
68.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So like a 6.3 litre Charger with a
6.3,
Chrysler Torque Flight or something like that.
It's manual. Or Hurst 4-speed.
A Hurst 4 on the floor?
Yes.
This is a proper muscle car under half then.
Yeah.
Oh, mate.
Non-servo drums.
I'm going to sit down.
This is a look of envy on my face here. This is quite. We've got,
Well, this is my Formula One trump card that I don't have. I have to buy a muscle car instead.
yeah.
That is a very
And what a
muscle
muscle car! What a fine choice.
American
Yeah,
built
thank
or
you.
Australian built? Because some of them were Australian, weren't they?
Yeah, this is American. Yeah, I imported it last year while the dollar was weak.
From where? Florida?
It's
California?
San Diego.
California, yeah.
Yeah. And it's an original San Franciscan car. It came to Diego, 12 years ago or something. But yeah, I decided to do it. And it was actually my wedding car, but it didn't actually run.
And for all those people,
That's another story.
and for all those people who've wondered, what's it like driving one of those big old American muscle cars on British roads?
It's actually all right. You know what I just said before about like you pretend that you're like some sort of rugged, lovable outlaw or something.
Bit of country and western on the radio.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about American cars. Yeah, you know they are flawed, of course they are. But when you get in a car like that, you suddenly do feel like you're pretty unbreakable, tough. You can pull out of junctions, no one around with you. You know. And I like that about it.
Well,
it's tough work driving it. You've got to look down the road. I've got non-servo assisted drums.
Hard work.
Non-servo. They're about like 8.5, 9-inch drums. They're not even very big. So you've got to pump that pedal. Like, you get spasming right leg. Sometimes. When the lights.
Seat?
You've got two buckets and what they call a buddy seat in the middle, which is you're supposed to have put your child there in the 60s because that's safe. And it changes into an armrest. So if you don't have children, it's an armrest. If you do have children, they're in the middle.
So you're making that transition at the moment from armrest to child seat.
Yeah. It's been armrest for the last since I got it on the road at Good Friday, and when I become a dad, it will be. No, actually, I probably won't have the kid in the front. I'll probably have him in the back.
Yeah,
I
think the law might tell you.
You may have to have a word with your wife about that. I think whether it's
But it hasn't got ISOFIX, so I don't know what I'm going to do.
Does it not?
I think it might have predated ISOFIX by about 30 years.
Moonshine runners weren't interested in ISOFIX, ironically.
So, Johnny, how many cars do you own? Just the numbers. Don't tell us what they are.
I think right now, me and my wife have got 11.
Blimey neck.
I think.
It's a lot of motors. Good.
But a lot of decrepit motors.
Of course.
Yeah, we're not talking like MTV Cribs or anything.
Your least favourite of all of them?
My least favourite at the moment is probably the AMC Pacer.
Oh, I love.
I know.
The Pacer.
Yeah, I mean, it is great, but it's just it's the tire. One tyre keeps going flat, and I should actually just replace it, but I haven't. So it's always the battery's always flat, so it's a real bad move around. I think the love's gone a little bit from it. I might advertise it soon. I don't know.
The trouble with having loads of cars is keeping them all taxed and everything. You really have to decide, which 2 or 3 you're going to keep on the road at any one time.
It's like crop rotation.
Yeah,
you have a fallow one.
Yeah, that's right. One that you're working on, one that you're using, one that you've just used, and that's going to go in for repair.
Yeah,
I've got 2 kids. I can never remember their birthdays. How am I going to manage the MOT on 11 cars? It's never going to happen.
That's serious.
One of them shares a birthday with, referring back to Giancarlo Fisichella, who we were talking about.
Really?
It doesn't.
One of your children, Gareth?
Doesn't he have the same birthday as Giancarlo?
I won't give the exact date in case anyone's trying to get into my internet account here and works out the password via his birthday.
I think you might want to change that part.
Really? I have to check that.
I think you better have, because I just remember noticing it a couple of years ago, and I thought you knew. So.
Hang on, I'm going to ask Violet, who's V. Oh, she's got headphones.
Well, it's funny you should say that. Well, Gareth's now gone off to ask his wife when his child's birthday was. I was just going to say, well, I've got a child due, my first child due in like the next 5 days, and I'm hoping that it'll be born on a day when someone I respect was also born.
Well, the more time goes by, the more things happen, and the more events happen that you can commemorate on any. You can pretty much pick any day out of the calendar, and something good that you will have happened that day.
Exactly. I share a birthday with Huey Lewis. How exciting! No, not the news, just Huey. Hang on, news coming in for Violet. Shout it out, V. What is it?
Our youngest son shares a birthday with Giancarlo Fisi.
There you go.
We have official confirmation.
Thank you.
Now that's something to be proud of.
Absolutely,
especially if you're into F1. That's brilliant.
I am. So, sorry, your least.
I'll probably find out like the designer of the SsangYong Rodius was born on exactly the same day as when my child will be born.
No, it's something. Come on, you've got to hang.
It's another car I love. I love ugly cars.
Oh, I draw the line at that.
If it's
have
beautiful.
you driven it?
No, I mean you wouldn't want to drive it. You love it without driving it.
You even like the Multipla, don't you?
I love the Multipla. The Multipla is a genuinely great car.
That is quite cool. But they facelifted it because it looked too weird.
I like the weird one.
Now it just looks awful.
A fat punter.
I can respect the weirdness, but I never really liked it. It's not.
Ironically, it won Car of the Year, didn't it? I think because all journalists thought it was cool, but unfortunately, when journalists say they like stuff, it doesn't always mean it'll sell, and it didn't sell.
So. No, it didn't really. A lot of them come off your money as well. Listen, we've had this conversation before.
Can't talk about multiples.
All right, so your least favourite car is your Pacer.
I think so.
Your favourite car is, I'm guessing, one that's not quite on the road yet.
Yeah, I've got several cars, Gareth, that aren't on the road yet. That's my problem.
All right, a British car. I know that you've got.
I do, yeah. I have a British car. It's an Austin Allegro, Series 2, and it's 2-door. Which means a lot to Allegro people because 2-door Allegros are quite rare. They're not particularly desirable, they're just rare.
Did they call it the coupe?
I don't think they even dared. They have one. They have one called the Equip. Or the
I remember
Equip.
that was it, the Equip. Yeah. Now, did that have the 1725 engine? No?
Now, the Allegro Super, was it the Allegro Super? It did an Allegro Sport, which was a twin carb 1725, I think.
Right, yeah.
Which was quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in a straight line, but you get to the corner and...
and all the myths like the back window falling out if you corner it too hard or whatever, or you jack it up and all that crap. Yeah, I mean, there were some good Allegros. I'm into Allegros.
I remember the launch of Allegro.
Do you?
I remember it, yeah. I remember HP Hone, my local Leyland dealership, and I remember it making the news, and I remember driving past the dealership on my way to school in the bus and seeing the first Allegros there. And I remember being excited by the sport model when it was first in the showroom there. It was a white one, if I remember, with the orange stripe.
It had a stripe, it had big stripes.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
But yours...
Beautiful.
It was in its day, but you've got yours is non-standard. Internally, it appears standard, but very non-standard. Is that right?
It is, yeah. I mean, it's not quite finished yet, but I've got this Allegro Series 2, like I said. I wanted to buy one to pay homage to my grandma and my auntie, who both used to own Allegros.
Oh.
Yeah. So I grew up with them, really. And they were always like a sort of like downtrodden Mini.
Oh.
Well, and heavily flawed as well. and so I thought, I'm going to look out for one on the quiet, find the right car. And this is like, you always go on about, like, if you see a car and it's in Wales and it makes you feel like, because you're Welsh, you've got that connection.
Yeah.
Well, I looked on the quiet for about 2 years for a good Allegro base. One came up on eBay, and it was in Somerset, about 4 miles from where my parents live, where I grew up. Oh. And it was, like, no money at all. And it was one lady owner in quite good nick. Antique gold, the colour, which it's genuinely nothing like gold. It is old, murky, greeny brown, like seagull poo, really. I mean, it's just not gold.
How did you get from poo to gold?
I just don't know.
Marketing,
I'm colourblind, and I had to check with several people. I said, that's not gold, is it? And they went, no, it's like duck shit. Yeah. So we got this car, and I thought, I want to build a street sleeper, like a Q car. I want to do it on a budget. I want to keep it British if I can. I was going to rear-wheel drive it, but I haven't because it got too complicated.
Yeah.
And then I suddenly struck gold one day. I thought, Rover 827 Sterling, V6, front-wheel drive, kind of British. OK, Honda kind of designed it, but we'll skip that bit. It's got a Rover badge on it, so that's all right.
Yeah.
And I bought a donor car, full service history 827, for 150 quid, with MOT and tax. And unfortunately, I have killed it.
You took the engine out?
Engine and gearbox out. It was a manual car.
Right.
So the Allegro is now 2.7 injection V6.
I want to see this car when it's done. I want to see this.
So do I.
How does the gearbox manifest itself through the carpet and the floor? Have you got the original British Leyland stick there? With
Yeah.
But it's got 5 instead of 4, even though you got 4.
I've kept the knob on the... the stick and the knob are the same. And it's brown Draylon interior.
Draylon.
How 70s can you get?
Oh, it's so itchy.
Beautiful.
itchy. And mine's a base model, so it doesn't even have a fag lighter. Just a blanking hole. And it doesn't even have 2 wing mirrors. It has 1 wing mirror and an grommet on the other side.
That's great.
So the engine actually fitted in quite nicely, and it's lighter than the original A-series engine, believe it or not.
A significant factor?
I'm trying to remember. I knew you'd ask me something.
Sorry. But the fact that it's lighter is amazing in any way.
Isn't that going to affect the overall sort of fine-tune, balance and handling of the original car?
I don't think they ever fine-tuned the Allegro. They just sort of knocked one out, didn't they?
I think they knocked out a fair
as it were.
Yeah. I think it was literally knocked out. Like Proton always employed Lotus to do a chassis of their hot car to try and make it sell. I really think Leyland should have probably done that.
Yes.
But I haven't got the hydroelastic suspension anymore. We have put it in the bin. It's now coilovers, so it's adjustable, because I'm hoping to take it on track day. It's not going to be particularly successful, I don't think, but it's just...
But it'll be fun.
It's a fun thing.
Will you come back on this programme when it's running? And can we come with you in it and record it and see what it's like on the first day that you go out with it? I would love that.
Yeah.
Is it going to make it onto 5th gear, or is this just something that you're doing for your own personal...
Well, I'm doing it for myself, but there has been word that 5th gear are interested in featuring it. So, and Tom Ford has said, as soon as I told him about it, he just said, "You'll die in that car." That was his father.
He broke his foot.
Is he known for his psychic insight? Just generally pessimistic.
This is a man who broke his foot in a Bedford Rascal.
Bedford Rascal,
painted to look like the A-team van.
Ingeniously called it the A-Tom van.
Has anyone done a mystery machine?
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I don't think they have.
I've
seen a mystery. I've seen a VW
somewhere.
mystery machine. I normally choose the American like the A-Team type van.
Yeah.
That like always kidnap people in films,
Yeah.
especially in the 80s.
A Dodge Ram 3350.
Chevy Day van. They're just really seedy, aren't they?
Choice of your discerning abductor.
Can we ask you about Fifth Gear?
Yeah, of course you can.
In the last series, most of the stuff that I associate you with on the series, correct me if I'm wrong, was the Cheapskate Alternative strand, which was your strand, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Did you source all the cars or the ideas for the cars in that, or is that something that comes out of discussion with the programme?
We do a bit of both, really. They often ask what cars I wouldn't mind talking about for whatever reasons. Sometimes they'll suggest them and I'll say yes or no, so it's a bit of a two-way thing.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the time I have input because I don't like talking about stuff I don't genuinely believe in.
Yeah, I know.
I think the reason why they gave me that part is because I can't help buying cars, second-hand cars.
We've noticed.
I do practice what I preach, contrary to what some people think. And it's just nice to be able to tell people what they can get for the money, because there's so many people out there who say, I've only got $3,000 to spend on a car. And you're like, mate, $3,000 gets you so much.
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough.
Yeah, true.
We don't all swan around in Maseratis and stuff. And make the most of someone else's misfortune. Let someone buy a brand new car and then buy it off them in about 6 years' time.
Yeah, there is a huge upside to depreciation. There really is.
There is.
Yeah.
People don't appreciate that.
Oh, where's that snare drum? So, Mr. Rootsis, how is Cosworth Racing preparing itself for a return to Formula One?
Well, we have a fine history in creating some of the greatest of racing engines, so I have no worries about the quality and performance of our product. And I think you'll agree that our latest employee, Mark Gallagher, will certainly improve in the one area where we've perhaps been a little disappointing in the last few years, which is our image and in selling ourselves. He really is a very skilled man in the field of motorsport marketing.
Mr. Routsis, Mr. Gallagher is here to see you now.
Excellent. Bring him in. I'll tell you, you'll be really impressed.
All right, how's it going, mate? Rock and roll. Noel Gallagher. I was out of a job since I left Oasis. Dead kind of you to call me up and all that.
Oh, dear. I think we might need to improve our recruitment department as well.
Gareth Jones up speed! We like cars, but we like music too!
For those of you who download the show regularly, you might remember a few weeks ago I said that I'd had a rather nice Lotus to drive, a rather special Lotus. Well, I can tell you now what that Lotus was. It was a Lotus Exige 270E tri-fuel. Do you know this car, Jonny Smith? To give you your full title?
Well, I do. I've not driven it. I've only ever driven a normal Exige.
The Exige is pretty good.
It's not a normal car.
No, that's true. There's nothing normal about the Exige.
No.
You've driven the Elise with me, haven't you, Zoc?
Yeah, absolutely. And
a supercharged Elise, actually.
Yeah, fantastic car. It was
a nutcase car.
A little bit more powerful than my 944 Turbo, and an awful lot lighter.
Yeah, that's true.
But this Exige that I had was a prototype, and for some reason, bless Lotus, but I really don't understand why they did this, they gave me the only one. This is the only Lotus Exige 270E tri-fuel they've built. The fools, why do they trust me with this car? It's called the tri-fuel because it will run on 3 types of fuel: petroleum, or gasoline if you like, ethanol, and bioethanol.
Well, let's...
Oh, here we go, straight in.
Well, bioethanol is surely exactly the same as ethanol. There is no difference between them because, it's just a question of whether one...
ethically sourced?
Well, it's produced by...
Organic.
Well, where do you get ethanol but other than from fermenting stuff?
Sugar.
That's, you do...
Well, this is the thing. This is what
second
this car
generation,
is about.
third generation, you've got the cellulosic ethanol production.
He's good.
Bloody here we go. Oh, I'm scared already.
Well, you could, but
luckily this lead for the microphone's long, so I'm stepping back.
I'm sorry. I know this is getting scary to geeky, but just to geek out for a moment, you have to get into stuff. We have to kind of understand the whole process of getting the power to the wheels. Right from the first moment. We have to understand.
It's the well to the wheel phenomenon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's
in this case, the rapeseed to the wheel, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, this car...
Feel to the wheel.
This car, it's clever, because it will run on all these other fuels. They've had to change all the pipes in the engine bay because methanol or ethanol or bioethanol will corrode the kind of pipes that we use to carry petrol. So they're all silicon, I think, these fuel lines, which is great.
It does, it rots them, yeah.
And it's got extra sensors in the engine to deal with the different
kind of combustion characteristics of the fuel. So I
was going to say stratified charge, but that's bollocks, isn't it? So you're right.
I'm not clever enough for this podcast.
I'm not.
I should go.
It's my show. I'm going. I'll leave you two to it. And the point is that this car will run on not only these three fuels, but any mix of these three fuels. Now,
really?
Yeah. It works it out. It just, whatever you put in, it's fine. And I know this because
it is a smart car.
Without being built by Mercedes in France or Switzerland or wherever they build them. France. So I ran it on petrol because that's how it was delivered. And then I found one of these 30 Morrison fuel stations around the country which have bioethanol, not biodiesel, bioethanol.
Okay, and let's just clarify this: the bioethanol that they're selling, is this 100% ethanol, or is it this E85?
E85,
which is 85% ethanol and 15% traditional petrol.
Witchcraft, 15% witchcraft.
Yeah. And what was really nice, I pulled into this garage. I had to do a diversion of about 45 miles to find this place.
Yeah.
They're like negating any fuel savings because it is actually more fuel efficient. It gives you a bit more power and it gives you a bit more miles per gallon. But I pulled in, I filled it up, and I went in to pay for it. And the people behind the desk said, "You do know that you've just put bioethanol in your car, so do you?" Yeah, yes,
you're the first customer.
Yes, I was.
Really?
I was. Yeah,
really?
I was. Right. Oh, well done. We're very excited. We thought you'd made a mistake. Really? I mean, well done. And I said, "No, the car's a prototype. Oh, marvellous." So I filled it and drove off. Nuts and toffee. The smell of nuts and toffee. It smells gorgeous.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because it's funny you should say that, because I've run a number of cars on chip fat, straight vegetable oil.
Oh, chips. Chicken chips.
And you get some people taking them, they go, I would never run a car on that because it stinks. You're like, well, what does diesel smell of?
Yeah.
Diesel's rancid.
Yeah, it's awful, isn't it?
So what's wrong?
Petrol smells lovely, but diesel smells horrid.
Yeah.
To my nose, it's
not a sexy fuel, is it?
No, but you say you've been running them on chip fat. Is this like sort of unmodified chip fat, just sort of filtered and straight in the tank?
Yeah.
You're not doing any other processing?
I haven't done no. I've not mixed with methylates or anything like that. Right. Not yet. I'm working on it. But the car's not modified. Although a good
and it's working well for you. There's you're not having any issues with.
Where'd you get it? Do you go down your local chip shop, or do you buy the oil? Just buy the oil.
Kebab house.
Honestly,
yeah. My brother got a deal with the local kebab house. We were buying it for 10p a litre because it got competitive in our area.
Yeah, fantastic.
Wow.
So he set up a little system in the shed in his back garden because he commutes a long way for work, and a lot of his wages were being blown on fuel. So I had the car from Fifth Gear, the Mercedes 250D, and me and him bought another Mercedes diesel, a 300D saloon, and we thought, well, we'll just run them. We've not even modified them. I mean, we have to change the fuel filters regularly.
How regularly?
I mean, I probably change them every 1,000 miles.
Yeah,
but we're talking
big bits of chicken clogged
But
in
how
there.
cheap is a fuel filter?
A fuel filter was £4.
Yeah,
and it took a 13mm spanner, and it took, I don't know, a couple of minutes to change. I used to keep one in the glove box as a spare.
Good idea.
And it was effortless.
I applaud your approach to alternative fuels, but get this for an alternative fuel. I'm going to read this from the Lotus press release. So it's a press release, so don't take it too seriously, right? We are all
embellished.
Yes, it is. But listen to this. Low carbon number alcohol fuels, methanol and ethanol, give more power when burned in the engine than conventional gasoline. Okay, right, we accept that. Okay. The performance benefits come largely from the high heats of vaporisation of methanol and ethanol, which give strong charge cooling effects, and the increased octane rating. There are other secondary thermodynamic effects. Methanol's higher heat of vaporisation leads to a slightly higher performance relative to ethanol. But get this, synthetic methanol, a green fuel, ? Synthetic methanol. Green credentials arises from its potential to be completely CO2 neutral. The most likely future mass production of the fuel is by, and this is real Star Trek stuff, this, using electrochemical techniques to combine oxygen, hydrogen and carbon. Carbon could be sourced from carbon dioxide recovered from the atmosphere using either large-scale extraction facilities or biomass. Oxygen would be taken from the atmosphere already contained in the CO2 molecule. Hydrogen would be acquired through the electrolysis of water. Challenges remain in the electrical power required. In a green future, this could be supplied from renewable sources, an issue already being addressed by supporters of hydrogen as a fuel. So, basically, this car, this Lotus Exige, is designed with the concept in mind of having ruddy, great big filters on mountainsides that will soak in the atmosphere and filter out the carbon from the atmosphere, and using nuclear power to electrolysis on water to get hydrogen and carbon and to react them together to create a free fuel. And this free fuel would fix the problem of the carbon in our atmosphere.
That's unbelievable.
No, it is not going to fix the problem of the carbon in our atmosphere.
Thank you, Jock.
That's,
I nearly believed all of that. Hang on.
Well,
I was convinced.
Explain.
And when I say that in that sort of rather definitive and slightly, it is not fixed. I'm not having a go at Lotus in any way, because I think what they're doing here in, first of all, putting on the road this technology demonstrator of the tri-fuel car, and also talking about and getting interested in the fuel production side of it is great. And we need motor manufacturers to be doing that. They have to be really engaging positively with these new directions for fuel train technology, and exactly what the fuel is and where it's coming from is really important. Now, in the bit that you read out there were two key words or phrases that stuck out to me. First was right at the start, the potential for it to be CO2 neutral, and secondly, let me just
challenges to overcome.
Just pass the
Go on.
It was okay.
Here we go.
So it's potential to be CO2 neutral. Okay, we'll come back to potential. Second, hydrogen would be acquired through the electrolysis of water. Challenges remain, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Well, exactly. Challenges remain because the electrolysis of hydrogen is a process that at the moment I think you can't do with much more than about a 40% energy efficiency.
Right.
And as anybody who's looked into this will know, hydrogen is not a source of power. It's not a source of energy. It's a means of storing energy because we can't go and mine lots of hydrogen. Hydrogen is something that we can only produce by putting energy in. And we either put energy into electrolysis, as described here, or we put energy into a process of getting hydrocarbons out of the ground, and I think they call it cracking or something else that you do. Basically, you get steam.
Hydrocarbon cracking, I think. Crackers. Hydro cracking.
Crackers?
Yes. Well, it's to go there. But basically, you combine steam and hydrocarbons in clever ways with the right catalyst, and bang, you get hydrogen out. But
a little
you have to put a lot of energy into doing that. It's not an energy-neutral process.
Exactly.
And it is more efficient to actually put the electricity into a battery in the car than it is to make some hydrogen and all that kind of stuff.
Tell you what, this is a sexy car because it says tri-fuel all over it, and people, it runs on trifle, the sherry in it or something.
Imagine that.
The way that I think is the really cool potential future for fuel production, it's going to be bugs, microbes, bacteria.
On our rubbish.
We're going to have
biomass.
We're quite surprised if in, let's say, 20 years' time, maybe less, we're not putting a lot of stuff in our fuel tanks, which there will still be plenty of vehicles around the fuel tanks. The stuff that's going to those tanks, I reckon a lot of it will be basically crapped out by bugs. And just as some bugs, yeast, which are kind of bugs, crap out alcohol when they feed on sugar, we're going to have other bugs that are going to excrete petrol, octane, heptane, like hydrocarbons, and when they're feeding on cellulose or other stuff. And that is how we're going to get a lot of fuel. And there are already engineered bugs around that will excrete diesel fuel. So, people are doing this stuff already.
There was
fuel poo.
Fuel poo. Well, we're drinking bug poo, aren't we?
Well, that's true. I mean, like you say, beer and that kind of thing is one of the finest inventions, and that is, like you say, that is a similar process.
There was a thing on the news this week about geoengineering, not quite terraforming, but they were talking about the possibility that we could re-engineer the Earth to fix the problems of the CO2 in the atmosphere with ruddy, great big filters in the sky and stuff. And,
A, because it's cheaper, and B, because it's too late to fix the problems of there being too much carbon dioxide.
Yeah. So we've got to put a elastoplast on it,
Pretty much.
But the idea that we can now drive cars fuelled by similar concepts is kind of appealing. And like you say, we applaud Lotus for doing that. It is a bit pie in the sky. But I tell you,
but you need that. Don't
they're
you?
researching, but they are researching the right areas. And we're not clear about where the path is going to take us, exactly what the path is. But they are researching the right areas. They absolutely deserve a big round of applause for doing that.
And not only that, but they're making it sexy. This is a Lotus Exige.
Yeah.
This car was parked outside my house here. People would come. I'm not kidding. They would knock on the door. Gareth, is that your car outside? Yeah. Can we have our photo taken in it? So if you want to make future technology sexy, forget your Toyota Prius.
Yeah.
You want to put it in sexy race cars like that. This is where Ferrari are missing a trick, I think, at the moment. They should go down the high-tech route, I think.
I think you're right, because, a lot of people are saying that, alternative fuel cars have got to be, run-of-the-mill kind of commuter hacks.
Yeah.
And I think maybe, that's where it'll eventually be, because, those sorts of commuter cars, the ones that belt out all the bad emissions. Whereas, a Ferrari that you do 1,000 miles a year in doesn't pollute that much, but it's getting the message across.
Yeah.
Well, the whole future fuels thing, I mean, it's such a multifaceted subject because I don't think there is one solution.
No, that's the truth of it. Yeah.
I think you're right, and I think that's one of the reasons why the tri-fuel kind of thing is a great area to be working on, because you then have, if you like, one solution, that power plant and everything goes with it, that can work with a bunch of fuels depending on what is the best local solution perhaps, or the best solution at the time.
If the future is cars like that little Lotus, I can't wait for the future. I love that car. It made some great noises as well, because it had a intercooler and a supercharger just behind your ear. It was like having 1,000 micro seagulls on the overrun going through. It's great noises. And we've all done it. You arrive at a roundabout in a Lotus going a little bit quicker than you should. And it goes round it because it's a Lotus.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Thank you, Lotus, for that. And Johnny, thank you for coming in. That's it. We're out of time, I'm afraid.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
We love you on the telly. We love you on the show. Will you come back?
I'd love to come back. Maybe I'll never go. Maybe I'll
stay here.
I'll stay
Actually,
here.
you've got to go because you've got your own podcast. Give us a plug of your own podcast. It's called what? Where do we get it?
I haven't got a name for it. Oh, no, I have. I think it's called Jonny Smith's Pod Outcast. Actually, I can't even remember what I called it because I just typed it in and it was later.
Where do we get it?
Do a search for Jonny Smith Podcast. That should find it.
If you go to twitter.com/carpervert, I'll put a link on there because it's on Podomatic. If you go on the Podomatic website and just type in Carpervert, you'll probably find it. Some of it contains rude material.
Thank you for saying that. So does this show sometimes.
Yeah.
We'll put a link to it on the information page for this episode, which is episode 99 of Gareth Jones on Speed, which means the next episode of this humble little podcast, which was Zog's idea to start some 5 years ago, I think now.
It was long ago, blimey.
It was, yeah. Will be episode 100.
Is that like a centenary without it being 100 years old?
Yeah.
Is there a word?
100 episodes old. I don't know. A centenary.
Is it a centenary episode?
So it's going to be completely different to any other episode of this show that you've heard so far. It will be to make. I know.
We're going to do it on an airfield naked.
Again?
Have we actually decided in exactly what way it's going to be?
Yeah, but we're not going to tell them now. But that conversation we had about how we were going to do it. Do you remember that?
I remember that.
They were going to do that.
When you were blind drunk.
Yeah. We were.
Okay.
Good. See you for show 100. I've been Gareth Jones. He's been Zog. He's been Jonny Smith. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And see you for show 100. Bye.
To send us an email, see pictures, get song lyrics, join our Facebook fan site or follow us on Twitter, go to garethjones.tv. Gareth Jones on Speed is made in London by Whiz Bang.